speaking of the AFC, let's move into, we talked about one bad fourth down decision. Let's talk about the one that pretty much took everyone by storm on Sunday, which is Brandon Staley's fourth down decision. It was 4th and 1 from their own 45. They were up by 2. They kept the offense out on the field and threw a slant to Mike Williams, which hit off the defender's back. And then the Browns took over. So, Clark, now having a day past it, do you still feel like it was the wrong decision? Do you still feel like it was as dumb as you felt as it was happening in the moment? What's your reaction?
I still think it was just about as dumb as it gets. That was very stupid in my mind. I understand, again, the analytics suggests to go for it there. You can end it there. But I don't really care what the analytics say in that point. I don't understand. You had the opportunity to pin back Jacoby Brissett, who had just made one of the worst decisions in his own end of the end zone about, 4 minutes ago, I believe, just prior on that drive.
Yeah.
They had no timeouts. They have a bad wide receiving core. I know the Chargers defense isn't particularly great right now, but I would take my chances against Jacoby Brissett than what they decided to do. They essentially handed Cleveland the ball on the Chargers side of the field. I mean, it really wasn't it? It was on like the 45, 48 yard line.
It was on the 45.
I just don't get like the risk in my mind. Although the reward is winning, the risk is that if you have a good kicker, they probably make that. Fortunately enough, Cade York is an idiot and he missed it. But I think really overall, Brandon Staley got very lucky. Very, very lucky that happened. I still don't think it was a good play call, decision at any point. I don't care what the analytics say in this one. I'm an analytics guy. I didn't like what this one had to say whatsoever. I can't believe he did it. He dodged a bullet. If they lose that game, I think there's a real conversation about his job right now. But overall, my opinion doesn't change. I thought it was stupid. I still think it's stupid. Maybe I don't think he's the biggest idiot of all time now, but I still feel as if, like, here's my point. You made a good point about Staley last week. It felt like the aggressive Staley that you knew was gone. I think this was an overkill to overcorrection to what he did yesterday. That was an overcorrection. So that's my sentiment on it. I like the aggressiveness idea, but there you have to pick and choose the right spots to do it. There it was not the right spot in my mind.
Well, so my issue, and this is where I've had time to digest, I still don't love the decision, but the reason I don't like the decision isn't the going for it on 4th and 1. It's the run on 3rd and 1, the play before. He admitted that they knew they were going to go for it on 4th down if they didn't pick up that 3rd and didn't lose any yards. They ended up with nothing. Why are you running it on 3rd and 1 if you know you're going to be aggressive on 4th down? It almost feels like you should flip those play calls and try for the pass on 3rd down. If it doesn't work out, they're going to be expecting you to pass on 4th down. Again, they're going to be expecting you on 3rd and 1 to run the ball, especially the way they had been doing it all day. To me, that decision-making was just off. The 3rd down play call didn't echo that they were going to go for it on 4th down. And I think that's why ultimately everyone was like, what are you doing? Because on 3rd down, they didn't show any aggressiveness. They just ran it up the gut with Austin Eckler. No interesting run play, nothing. They just did a straight run up the gut like they were going to punt it away and be happy with that. They keep the offense on the field. They go all the way down, take the time all the way down. It seems like they're just going to call them offsides. They bring the offense back out, and then they run to my least. Again, I can't hate Mike Williams all that much. But the reason that I don't like Mike Williams is because they always put him in these situations. Why are you throwing a slant to a guy that can't separate? That is not the play you run to Mike Williams. Mike Williams is great. I mean, he's played extremely well this year. I'm not trying to take that away from him, especially on these kind of lob balls in one-on-one coverage. He's playing extremely well, but he still can't separate. The separation is still a massive issue.
No, it's not there. It's not there.
And that play showed it. I mean, literally a rookie corner just had him blanketed and there was no separation. Mike Williams couldn't do anything about it. I don't like the preconceived idea of, from both Staley and Herbert both confirmed it, that no matter what, that play was being thrown to Williams. I don't like that kind of thinking when it's 4th and 1 and you got to have it. You can't just go to your first read.
I agree. I mean, it was just not the right play call. Again, I'm with you. If you're going to do it, the third down play call has to be different. The fourth down play call certainly has to be different. It didn't work. But as stupid as it was, as moronic as the decision was, they got away with it. You got to win.
They got away with it. They got away with it. Again, they ended up winning. That's all that ultimately matters on the win column, and we'll see how it continues to progress. But to me, the overcorrection thing, I think you're right on. He had been not aggressive at all, and then he decides to come out there and make the most aggressive decision he's made as a head coach, kind of out of nowhere.
I agree. It was kind of one of those, again, it just makes you sit there and you look at it and you're like, why are we doing this?
Well, the other thing, I want to rant about the analytics because everyone's like, oh, the analytics say go for it. 11%, which at the beginning I was like, wow, maybe I shouldn't be mad about this. But after thinking about it, of course the analytics are going to say to go for it because if you pick it up, you win the game. Of course your win probability is going to be higher if you go for it than punt it away. You win the game if you convert.
I totally agree. I mean, you win the game, you convert, but it just doesn't mean, I don't know. Again, the analytics are always great. I'm always a big fan of analytics. This situation, I just didn't agree with them. I just wasn't there with them. It didn't line up.
Well, so I want to talk about something else about the Chargers, and this is something I actually tweeted about earlier today. And this is something where I think Charger fans are putting on their blinders. When can we start to talk about that Justin Herbert just doesn't push it down the field? I get that people want to accuse Joe Lombardi of not drawing up these plays, but they're there and they're available. Just Herbert doesn't take them. He just doesn't throw it.
Let me ask you, are they still seeing a lot of cover 2 shell? Are they still seeing a lot of that where he has to go underneath?
Well, they are, but the thing is even when they are, they're still getting all those deep shots to Mike Williams, and he's just not throwing them, or to Josh Palmer.
Yeah.
And they're dragging these routes down the field, and he's just not throwing them. I don't know if it's he feels like he'd rather be cautious and dink his way down the field, and he feels better about doing that. But at some point, you have to stop blaming the play caller when the quarterback is not executing the play.
Yeah, I will say this. I think in some sense, like I think with quarterbacking and play calling, the Bengals are and Chargers are in somewhat similar scenarios.
Yeah.
They're just with different, like the Chargers, I think, are calling it. I think Herbert's not taking it.
That's what I think.
I think with the Bengals, they're not calling it, and Herbert's forced to check. Burrow's checking down to everything because he doesn't have the routes called for him. And I agree. I think Herbert, it's the only thing I've ever said with the guy is that I agree. When you watch the Chargers route combinations, they are options available. Like one play call, one decision of his I really didn't like was I forget what quarter was in, but they were in a goal to go situation on 3rd and goal, and he threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, to DeAndre Carter.
Where does that get you? Where does that get you? It doesn't get. I mean.
That's my thing. And then people look at the play and they're like, oh, Lombardi, all he does is have all these routes that are in the flat. And it's like, no, there's other routes on the field. It's just Herbert's picking the check down every single time.
I know. And look, the check down, again, the Chargers and Herbert are facing the same thing with Bengals. They're seeing a ton of cover 2 shell, don't get beat over the top. I get it. But the thing is that if plays are drawn up for you to be there, you have to eventually take the shot on it at some point. You have to take the risk with it. The checkdowns can work and they can take you, but at some point you have to say, hey, we're still going to throw it there. You're still going to have to deal with it. You can't play dink and dunk all night.
Especially against, I don't want to hit on Cleveland too much, but against
there's just shit defense.
Secondary,
they're bad.
Defense. Yeah. Again, we've talked about, I've raved about Austin Eckler a lot of times, but you should never give up 175 yards on the ground to Austin Eckler. No. That is not his bread and butter. You should never have a game where you're actually talking about Austin Eckler outrush Nick Chubb.
I completely agree. There's no way that should happen.
So let's move on to, I actually had this written up. Let's talk about Bengals play calling because this is also
this is along the exact same line. I think, again, as I touched on, as a Bengals fan, look, we lost that game yesterday. Was it a bummer? Sure. We had the opportunity to win. We went down there and we took the lead. But I think the biggest issue I have as a Bengals fan, and I think a lot of people do too, is Zach Taylor's play calling decision and routes that he's creating for these guys are just really perplexing. At this point, you know you're getting a lot of cover 2 shell. However, what I don't understand is that the defensive formations the Ravens were giving us, you could take shots over the middle of the field in the intermediate. And all of the concepts that were dropped out were either, it was like one check down to the right and everything was up and over to the sidelines. Nothing exploiting the middle of the field. The one time we really went to the middle field, oh, look, it was a 20-yard touchdown pass to Hayden Hurst. I'm like, you have the guy, like, I guess the Bengals for me, it's just really, it's annoying at this point because they had a better run game last night. Mixon 5.5 yards per carry. He looked better than he had all season. The offensive line played fine. I think Burrow can't do much when the play calling is like, look, we won't even let you use the middle of the field and all your options are like 2-yard drops. The play calling was bad and it was only more intense, like only more shown on our goal, the goal that we decided to go for it with the shovel pass. Like, I can't understand that for the life of me. You have Joe Burrow, who's one of the best pre-snap guys, one of the best players when it comes to seeing the field, and you decide on second down, you try to do a Philly special.
That was really bad.
That was really bad. And it's like, okay, you get it all back with Chase by using the middle of the field, and you decide that we want to run a inside pitch to Stanley Morgan rather than try to use Tyler Boyd, who's lined up against a rookie, or take a shot to Jamar Chase on a fade route, which he's notoriously good at. The play calling for me is the Bengals' biggest issue.
Or we didn't even talk about, or just hand the ball off to Joe Mixon.
You had to push
well
that
the whole
night.
game.
You had to push all night with Mixon. You could have tried it. You could have tried Hurst. That's just the thing with me with Cincinnati right now. The defense, they've allowed 1 second-half touchdown. I don't think they've allowed a second-half touchdown this year. I don't think they have. The defense has played out of its mind well this season. They're keeping you in games. They have a positive point differential of 20. They're clearly saying it. Like, it sucks that all 3 of these are on last-second field goal losses. But these are games you can conceivably win by a touchdown, if not more, if you just have better play calling. Like, there's too much talent on the offense and way too good of a quarterback for this issue to be arising at this point. Zach Taylor, I don't know what the game plan, but it has to change. I mean, golly.
I mean, the other issue is, this is something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, is Lamar Jackson did not play well in that game.
No,
Besides front with his leg, he missed so many throws.
He missed a lot of throws. He didn't make a lot of great decisions. I mean, Lamar wasn't – I mean, you're right. Lamar did enough to what he did to win. But I feel like there was a big, like, conversation around, like, oh, wow, Burrow's just, he's just terrible now and stuff. I'm like, well, he kind of outplayed Lamar passing the ball, certainly. I mean, it's just, I don't know. For both those guys, they're both really good. But, yeah, Lamar did not play particularly great. But, again, for me as a Bengals fan, I'm not super concerned. There's a lot of the talent on the offense I think will eventually show up. But Zach Taylor's got to figure it out. I mean, you have far too much talent on this team to be dealing with this. And I don't know if there's been discussions about giving up play calling. I know Brian Callahan has a lot of say in the offense. But that's the big – like, that's just what sucks. That the defense is great. You're actually getting good play from the offensive line in my mind. And for some reason, we have really bad play calling. That shouldn't be the part that's missing here in year 4 for Zach.